Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to AM Impact on Your Health. AM Impact on Your Health, where every day our goal is to have you learn at least one thing to help you live better and longer. AM Impact on Your Health is heard each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney, and I'm with you each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9. AM Impact on Your Health, for each day you'll find current medical news, knowledgeable guests, fascinating health topics, and of course where we do encourage you to call in to join in. Today, we're going to visit with a young lady. I've really never had the pleasure of interviewing her before. Spoke to her briefly on the telephone, but she is quite an accomplished author. 8 books she's written. We're going to be talking about her most recent one called Create a Toxic-Free Body and Home. She works very closely with Dr. Lee Cowden, who's been on our show a number of times, and has co-authored many of her books with him. We're going to find out from Connie Strasheim how to create a toxic-free body and home, and how we can learn more about many of the other fascinating works that she's put together. Connie Strasheim is our guest today. I hope you enjoy listening to her as I will enjoy interviewing her. In the course of my discussion with Connie, if you want to call in to ask a question or to make a comment, the number, of course, as you should know by now, is you dial us up at 412-825-6262. That's 412-825-6262. I'll listen for that knock on the door, and I will let you in the store. Now, let's see how the rest of the week and the month is shaping up. By the way, we're going to mention on Monday, we did our part 2, and boy, was it a good one, with our very good friend and the brilliant Dr. Jerry Tennant. Now, those of you who have run to the website to try to find that show and can't find it there, I got to let you know that we had a computer glitch on Monday. I just talked to Bill. That show will be up on the collection of shows by going to my website at djcmd.com by this afternoon. We're going to get that emailed over to my techie this morning. So if you've been looking frantically to try to put part 1 and part 2 together, remember, part 1 we initially brought to you back on August 18th. Then we brought Dr. Jerry Tennant back with us again on Monday. The show will be up by this afternoon sometime. Hope you enjoy listening to both versions, both episodes in tandem. And we'll bring Dr. Jerry Tennant back. What a brilliant physician he really is. And I'll be talking more about some of the things that I've learned from him that he didn't even mention, and I think we're going to round out our Dr. Jerry Tennant discussion before the month is up. Now, there are Beresha tastings this week. One tonight out there on Mount Washington's Carnegie Library. Faith Oligowski is going to be up there 6:30 at the library today. She's going to be having a discussion about making your harvest last all winter. But there'll be a Beresha tasting. The fine coffee, the tea, the lemonade will be there. So now if that's in your zip code, if it's geographically desirable, that's one place that you can trial and try these wonderful products to see if, in fact, you'd like to have them around a little more frequently than just a tasting. Speaking of the tasting, the big one coming up on Saturday. Now, that's going to be held at the JDRF Walk for the Cure. That's the Juvenile Diabetes Research Foundation. Every year has this huge walk. Now, they're all over the state. Ours in particular is going to be this Saturday. And that's held right across the road from Phipps Conservatory out there at the Shenley Park Circle. And we're going to be there. The walk itself starts at 10 o'clock. That's when the gun gets sounded. Registration begins at 8:30. So you got 2 opportunities for a tasting. One before the walk kicks off there. So between 8:30 and let's say 9:45. And then when the walk is over, we'll still be there having an opportunity to share some time with you, talking about what we do. Now, we means there are going to be 3 of us there. Myself, Dr. Angelo Mitsos. If you have enjoyed listening from him frequently, you might enjoy meeting him. And Dr. Lori Lankowitz is going to be there too. She's a fine clinician out there in Mars, PA. new office opening up very soon. Maybe we'll know more about it after I speak to her this weekend. Anyway, the three of us are going to be there talking about what we do over and above offering you that opportunity for a tasting, but that truly is a wonderful way to help support a pretty interesting organization. JDRF handles themselves so admirably throughout the year. We enjoy participating and supporting them on the day, and I thought it would be a great opportunity to give you another chance at the Beresha tasting. On Friday, we're going to have Patricia Szymanski. We'll have Dr. Angela Mitsos here too, but Patricia Szymanski is going to be here talking about the TLS program that she's literally going to run starting on the 27th of the month. Now, this is a, however you look at it, a weight loss program, a diet enhancement program, a carbohydrate control program. There's so many different ways of looking at it, but the TLS literally standing for Transition to Lifestyles System, and over the course of 10 weeks, you'll be to the weight you want to be at. You will be controlling your blood sugar in the way you want to control it and be able to carry on for the rest of your life with that education that you're going to receive. So we'll have Patty Szymanski with us on Friday to talk about the TLS program, which is launched on the 27th, a Saturday morning, 9 o'clock at the South Point exit, I-79, in the offices of Dr. Tyson Swigert. It's called South Point Chiropractic. That's where it's going to be held. Very conveniently located right off the exit as it is. Next week, now we're going to have one of Sylvia's guests I'm going to mention. Seems a little vague, but they're starting up, folks. The Freedom of Choice and Cancer Therapy Group starts up once again next Thursday. That's the 25th at the location out there in Oakmont at Riverside Landings, 7 o'clock. The speaker is, I'm supposed to get a fax. I talked to Sylvia about her, and she will be my guest on Monday, whoever she is, and you know who you are. I just want to make sure that I let you all aware of the fact that they're back in the full swing. It's September, summer's over, vacation's done. The Freedom of Choice and Cancer Therapy Group begins next Thursday night at 7. You don't want to miss it. And Sven Hosford will be our guest on next Wednesday's show. He, of course, puts together these wonderful publications, lifestyle medicine, a lot of articles in here. I've written one this time on eyes. The last one, which was the summer edition, wrote about ozone. I think there's some, Dan Wagner's in there, and he's always writing some excellent articles, and a whole bunch of other practitioners too, Lori Lankwitz included. So that's the lineup as I see it right now. Some other things just to quickly mention, the eye program. Going to be too late to be involved with this month's eye protocol. You know, that's a 3-day treatment program we offer here, created by Dr. Ed Kondrat, to reverse your vision loss from the very serious disorders of things like macular degeneration and glaucoma and the like. I will tell you that the October 3-day program, which is certainly long enough and far enough away that you'll be able to plan for it, will be held on the 13th, 14th, and 15th of October. More about that as time moves on. And I think pretty much that wraps things up. Yes, as I see it. So let's do this. Let's take a short break. In the interim, let's get connected with a young lady I'm very interested in finding out more about her in particular, and what she writes about. Fascinating books, 8 total. We're going to talk about the newest one, Toxic-Free Body and Home, and how to do it. Be right back with Connie Strasheim.
You become confused.
Okay, everything is working?
Yes, I think it's okay on my end, okay on yours?
Yeah, everything is okay. Obviously, we're communicating here, so give me a few seconds and you can talk to her.
Okay.
No matter how dutifully you follow these.
Hello, Connie.
Hi, Dr. Courtney. How are you?
Oh, Connie, I'm doing great. And I'm telling you, I'm looking at this lovely picture of you. What a gorgeous person you are.
Oh,
What a breath of fresh air starting this show at this hour. And I'm anxious to learn about that intellect of yours with all those books you've written. So
Yeah.
we're on a little bit of a commercial break right now. When they come back, they'll throw it to us. I'll use some introductory materials that your website has, and then I'm going to ask you about you and how you started this pathway. I want to ask you, too, about the neat relationship you must have with Dr. Cowden. You write together.
Yes.
So here we go. Hang on.
It is neat. Well, thank you very much. It's an honor to be with you, and I'm excited to share
Here we go.
everything I've been learning over the last 12 years.
All right, here we go. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again to AIM Impact on Your Health. Heard here on KHB 620 each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney with you today on a Wednesday morning version of the show. A lovely young lady we're going to have the opportunity to interview today. What a brilliant star and just emanating of light and knowledge she is. 8 books she's written. They've been on holistic wellness, Lyme's disease, cancer, detoxification, nutrition, chronic illness, spiritual healing. The list goes on and on. What a wide base of knowledge she has. She's a copywriter and physician podcast interviewer for Alternative Cancer Research Institute, which is an organization dedicated to alternative and integrative treatments for cancer. She lectures on health and wellness. She travels worldwide. She's here with us today. Let's say good morning and welcome her aboard, Ms. Connie Strasheim. Good morning, Connie.
Good morning, Dr. Courtney. It's an honor to be with you here today. Well,
you come so well announced, and we're going to get into how that announcement occurs. A very good friend of yours and certainly well known to us, Dr. Lee Cowden has been on our show a couple of times. He mentioned to me off air, I just have to get you on my show if I wanted to have a very interesting guest. And I'm sure that at least from what I can read about you, that's going to happen in the next 30, 40 minutes or so. I would like to really kick this off, however, to let you talk to us a bit about yourself and how you got established on this journey, so accomplished as you are, and so diverse as this many topics that you've written about. The diversity sort of is stunning in my own mind, because usually people have a narrow focus. You appear to have no focus at all. You're all over the board. How did you develop such acumen in so many different areas? Talk to us about you, Connie.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Courtney, I kind of fell into medicine by accident because I got sick with chronic Lyme disease in my late 20s, and I found out that the doctors didn't really know how to treat me. The doctors in Colorado didn't know that much about Lyme, and so I began to research medicine full time just to get myself better. And I came up with the idea of doing a doctor interview book. I looked for doctors that knew how to treat chronic Lyme disease, and when I found them, I compiled their information in a book. And it was very successful because at that time when I first got sick, there weren't a lot of books out there on chronic Lyme disease. And so it ended up being a really valuable resource for a lot of people. And so I kind of thought, I've seen the same thing with cancer, where people are not aware that there are alternatives to chemotherapy and radiation. But, it's kind of like when you get on the internet, you see all this alternative medicine, and you don't know what treatments work and which ones don't. And so I then began to do the same thing for cancer. I began to research doctors that were having success treating late-stage cancers with natural and alternative medicine, and I published a doctor interview book on cancer. But during this time, I realized that, what had caused me to be sick wasn't just Lyme disease. It was environmental toxins. It was trauma from the past. It was a lot of different things, in short. And I realized that a lot of chronic illnesses have certain things in common. There are certain things that they all have in common. And so, even though it would seem like, I know a whole lot about a whole lot of different things, the truth is that I just have found that in chronic illness, there are a number of commonalities. And so the books that I've written, you'll find commonalities among all the books. But I also have a very wide range of interests, and I just love researching anything in medicine. It's like whether it's the cancer, Lyme disease, spiritual healing, and I lead a prayer conference call group for people that have chronic illness, and I've seen, a number of divine healing. So that's also taught me that there's a God that heals them. And so that had come to me and said, he's got 25 years of experience, more than 25 years of experience in treating patients with a number of different chronic illnesses, and he's wanted to share a lot of what he's learned over those past 25 years. And so, we came up with the idea of doing the Journey to Wellness series, and the first book in that series, which we released last month, is called Create a Toxin-Free Body and Home Starting Today. And it's about, we wrote this book because Dr. Cowden realized that a lot of people are getting sick today from environmental toxins, and environmental toxicity is one of the one of the common problems in most chronic illnesses, and it contributes to symptoms, and it can be a minor contributor or it can be a major contributor. But Dr. Cowden, in this book, we share strategies for basically what you need to do to clean up your body and your home so that you can get better or simply maintain your health. And so that's the first book. And the second one we actually just released yesterday, and that one's called Foods That Fit a Unique You, and it's based on the idea that no two people have the same nutritional requirements, don't have the same biochemistry. And so, everyone needs a different diet based on their individual needs next month, and that one's called Bioenergetic Tools for Wellness. And so these books are really just a compilation of both of our research and experience, but especially Dr. Cowden.
Man, am I impressed. You just keep stamping out a new one. I don't know at what rate, but I can't seem to write the one. You got 3, and you're launching them all within the same month. I'm so impressed about your ability to stick to the project. I'm really interested. Was that a happenstance, or was that destiny when you and Dr. Cowden teamed up forces and now taken both of your levels of expertise and brought it to a place where a layperson, not medically trained, can benefit from both of your knowledge? How did that one came about again? You just happenstance to put the two of you together?
Well, actually, I sought him out when I wrote my book, Insights into Lyme Disease Treatment, which is the doctor interview book, because he was, he's renowned in the field of Lyme disease, and so I thought, I want him to be in my book. And so I had approached him then back in 2008. And then what actually happened is a few years ago, I got 2 cancerous lesions on my back, and I contacted him and wanted some help with that. And so he said, come out to Dallas, I'll help you. And then, so I went out there to see him, as a patient. And then he ended up saying, hey, I want to do this book series. And so we just began talking about that and realized we had some common beliefs and knowledge about things. And so, he said, I want to do this book, but he said, I want you to share what you've learned as well, because it's you get 2 different perspectives in these books. Dr. Cowden is the medical expert. He's the one that's worked with patients for many, many years. But he also said to me, you as a medical researcher and as somebody who has suffered from chronic illness, you're going to have a unique perspective on things as well. And so we kind of just joined forces with our information and produced this series. So this first book is more, I would say, his information than mine, because, one of his areas of expertise is in detoxification, environmental toxins, and I also know a lot about the subject, but, this guy's been treating people with environmental toxicity for many, many years, and he's seen them get better. So he shares his pearls in this book, and the books are not, super long. You said people say, how do you write 3 books in a year? Well, each one of these books is, anywhere between 125 and 190 pages. So they're not super, super long, but they provide a lot of succinct, important tips for what you can do to maintain wellness. And so that's the goal. That was the goal of the books.
Well, yes, we've had Dr. Cowden, such an expert in Lyme disease. He shared some of his thoughts and his treatment successes with us. And detoxification was a completely other topic. So this book, the first of the 3 that gets released, Creating a Toxic-Free Body and Home, you mentioned at the start of our discussion that so many commonalities exist. And this thing about toxic burden is probably the most common provocateur of disease. Why don't you spend some time talking about the level of toxins that we end up accumulating over a lifetime, where the origins of those come from, how varied they may be, how problematic they may be. Well, let you take it for a bit and go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, Dr. Courtney, it used to be that if you just ate your vegetables and got fresh air, took a walk, and got your sleep, you could be healthy. But in today's world, I tell people that in order to remain healthy, you also have to do detoxification as part of your lifestyle, because there are just a whole bunch of different toxins to which we are exposed every year. You know, it's estimated. Dr. Gary Gordon shared with me a statistic in which he said that newborn babies today have over 200 different chemical toxins in their bodies just when they're born. And these toxins are things that come from industry. They're found in synthetic personal care products, cleaning products. You've got heavy metals in the atmosphere, in the air, the food, the water supply. You have radiation from sources such as Fukushima. You've got antibiotics and pesticides and growth hormones in the food supply. So there are a lot of different things. There's electromagnetic pollution, which is which I call the silent but deadly toxin, because you can't feel it. You can't always tell how it's harming you. And so, you know, things like electromagnetic pollution come from things like cell phone towers, Wi-Fi, the poor wall wiring in your home. Mold is a toxin. It's, you know, there's a study that was done, and it was estimated that over 50% of homes in the United States have mold in them. And mold can be a problem because over a quarter of the population has a genetic inability to remove mold from their bodies, and so mold can cause chronic illness. And so when we say toxins, there's really a wide range of stuff, and you have to think, where can toxins accumulate? Where are they found? They're found in the air, they're found in our food, they're found in the water supply, and they're found inside our homes. You know, even things like building materials. If you've got new carpets, you know, which contain formaldehyde, there are just a lot of places where toxins can hide. And I think it's not always easy to identify them, because what person would think, well, my carpet's toxic? The average person, I don't think, considers all the sources of toxicity, or considers that it could be their furniture making them sick or their food making them sick. But the reality is that today there are a lot of places where these toxins come from, and they are multiplying every year. And so what we do in this book is we say, okay, here are some major sources of environmental toxicity, and this is what you need to do to get them out of your body and out of your home and workplace, so that you can either maintain wellness or heal from the chronic conditions that ail you. Because I'll let you know, as I mentioned just a little bit earlier, Dr. Cowden and me and I have found as well that environmental toxins are a major component of a lot of chronic illnesses. So those are just some of the things that we talk about in the book.
Well, this issue of toxins and detoxing, I think it's pretty common for my listeners, for instance, and certainly my patients, to feel that it's just perfectly okay for them to do a detox. They usually do it once or twice a year, and they want to talk about, you know, a liver detox and a bowel detox and a gallbladder flush, sort of cleaning out their own bodies. But I don't know if they really spend that much time on the home. Let's first let you talk about the body and think, what kind of annual cleansing has to take place to rid the body? And then I really want to get into the home, because I think that's one that really isn't having the attention paid to it.
You mean the annual?
Yeah, the annual.
Yeah, okay. Well, here's the thing. I think we have to do detoxification as a lifestyle. And so it's something that I would say, well, for a lot of people, you want to do it more periodically than that. But, you know, there are things like the liver flush. Okay, if you're going to do it once a year, it's better than not doing it at all. And there are a number of different things out there. There are physical strategies for toxin removal, and then there are things that you can take orally to help remove toxins. And so, first of all, you have a liver flush, which there are a number of different recipes out there on the internet, but what the liver flush will do is get rid of these gallstones that accumulate in the liver. We all have hundreds of gallstones in our livers, and they just build up there over time. And I didn't quite believe this until one of my doctors had me do a liver flush, and then it was amazing because I thought, wow, that stuff accumulated in my liver. And they're really simple to do. They involve the things, variations on, for instance, there's the Hulda Clark liver cleanse, which involves taking Epsom salts on an empty stomach and then drinking a cup of olive oil and grapefruit juice before you go to bed at night. And the olive oil it kind of serves to just loosen things up in your liver. And then the next day you eliminate the stones. And by doing this kind of a cleanse periodically, you can help your liver to function a lot better, because today our livers have a lot of toxins to process. It's not just metabolic waste or things from our food, but all the environmental toxins. And so it's really easy for the liver to get overloaded. And that's, and I've heard people say, well, our body was designed to do this. Why would it have a buildup of liver stones or gallstones? And the reason is there's just so much stuff for our organs to process. So it's really good to do, periodic liver cleanses that we also talk about in our book, the coffee enema, which is something that you can do once or twice a week, which will also help to get rid of toxins out of the colon. And coffee stimulates the gallbladder to release environmental toxins. And so, there's that. And then you've got things like things that you can do to make use of your lymphatic system and your kidneys, because when you do detox, you don't just want to focus on one organ. You want to make use of all of your body's detoxification organs. So the skin, for instance, you go do a sauna, and saunas will remove contaminants that you can't remove any other way. For example, Dr. Cowden mentions in her book that, when you do a sauna, you can get rid of plastics, and because we all accumulate a lot of plastic, like from water bottles, food packaging, and there is no oral substance that you can take to get rid of plastics. And so, but saunas, according to Dr. Cowden, will get rid of them. So you make use of your skin, and then you can do things to make use of your kidneys as a detox organ. We talk about juicing and that things that will, because there are a number of juices that will cleanse the liver, cleanse the kidneys, cleanse the lymphatic system. And so you really want to just do things to get all of those organs working properly. So that's kind of a long answer to your question.
No, but it's a right-on, spot-on answer, because it's this multiple organ approach that is so necessary. It's not just the colon cleanse. It's a combination of, and you mentioned the sauna. What a great far infrared sauna! What a wonderful way to get rid of toxins, and so getting rid of them. I'm interested in a colon cleanse, and I'd like to get your perspective of the bacterial flora and the probiotic issue. How do you and Dr. Lee handle that? Because it sort of goes hand in hand. If you're going to go ahead and cleanse the colon, you better be putting down a new flora in its place. Talk to me a bit about that.
Yeah, well, and there are things you can do to cleanse your colon, like the colonics and stuff. But the issue of the flora is an important one, because a lot of us today are lacking in beneficial flora. That they estimate that there are over several hundred different types of beneficial bacteria in the gut that we're born with, and a lot of us today don't have all that flora, because things like pesticides, the antibiotics in the food supply have stripped us of those beneficial flora, and then when you do cleansing, that can also remove the flora. And so it is really beneficial to take a probiotic that contains a number of different species of organisms. I like the Garden of Life brand. I have found that to be beneficial, by Jordan Rubin. He creates, the Garden of Life products. And so probiotic, taking things like that, drinking things like kombucha. Dr. Cowden talks about kimchi, which is a fermented Korean dish that contains a lot of healthy probiotic strains, and he claims it's more beneficial than taking a probiotic supplement. He says that, it's a live food and it contains a lot of different organisms. So, he'll advocate that. You have yogurt, although yogurt quite often, I think, because it's pasteurized, it means they kill off all the bacteria and then they got to put it back in. So unless you are, making your own yogurt, I wouldn't always say that's the best source of probiotics. So having a fermented food like kimchi, making your own kefir, taking a probiotic supplement is really, really important. And just getting your digestion in alignment, which, we talk about that also in this book, and we talk about it in our recent book that we just released called Foods That Fit a Unique You. And Dr. Cowden talks about all aspects of the digestion and how supplementing, how taking care of one part of the digestion, like the body's hydrochloric acid levels, then affects enzyme production in the pancreas. And it's kind of like this chain thing. So you don't just want to replace the beneficial bacteria. You want to make sure that your body's producing enough hydrochloric acid and enzymes. And if not, then you also want to supplement with hydrochloric acid and digestive enzymes.
Now, when it comes to the heavy metal burdens, because there's so many substances that get really embedded deep into our tissues. And then once they've entered the body, they're sort of locked up and very problematic to remove, sometimes requiring professional intervention.
Yes.
Talk to us a bit about the heavy metal burdens that most of us are going to encounter in a lifetime and how one may best rid themselves of those types of toxic substances.
Yeah, Dr. Courtney, the heavy metal toxicity is a real problem nowadays. And, I think it used to be that people thought that heavy metals were only found in fish or in dental amalgams, but they're actually in our air, they're in the water, and we're breathing them. And so doing heavy metal detoxification on a periodic basis is also really important. But unlike a lot of the strategies that we describe in Create a Toxin-Free Body and Home, this is one that you do want to have professional help with, professional assistance, because heavy metal removal is tricky. And if you do it wrong, you can redistribute the metals in other parts of your body where they can cause problems. And so, that's the one type of toxin removal that we say, it's really best to work with a professional on that. And somebody who specializes in it, not, and someone that really understands it. And there's a lot of controversy over heavy metal removal. There are people that are, practitioners that do intravenous heavy metal detoxification, and I believe that's fairly controversial. But there's a man named Andrew Cutler who has written a book called Amalgam Illness, and in it, he's considered to be, he talks about what you need to do to remove heavy metals. He's considered to be one of the foremost experts on that, and basically the consensus that I have found among integrative medical doctors is that DMSA, along with alpha-lipoic acid, and EDTA it's one of the best ways to remove the metals. And some will use DMPS, which is a stronger substance, but could have more side effects. Dr. Cowden has used on his patients, he's used the DMSA. He's used that along with liposomal EDTA, which removes lead, because the chelators remove different substances. The DMSA is more for methyl mercury, whereas you've got EDTA that removes lead, but they also remove some other type of industrial contaminants. So when you're using these things, you're also getting rid of some of the other things in the environment. But those are kind of the two main ones, although there are other types of heavy metals, but those seem to be the most problematic, and they've been linked with a number of chronic degenerative neurological disorders such as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. And if you look on research websites like PubMed, you'll find some of the research studies which show the detrimental effects of heavy metals upon the body. And aluminum is another one. That's another one we talk about in our book. And aluminum comes through things like antiperspirants, and most people they're also in the air and things like that. But antiperspirants contain aluminum, and aluminum has been linked in a number of studies to Alzheimer's. So those are definitely things you want to address. And people that have chronic illnesses, like for instance, I had chronic Lyme disease, but a lot of people that have chronic illness end up accumulating a lot of these heavy metals in their bodies, perhaps more so than the general population, because when you get a chronic illness, your detoxification mechanisms become compromised. So we just say it's really, really important to get heavy metals out of the body, and it's a process that takes many, many months, even years even.
And just maybe as a little bit of advice that people who are listening to us right now think, well, I'm really listening to Connie and Dr. Courtney, and I'm going to bring this up with my doctor, and I'm really going to caution you and to be careful, if you don't mind for a second, Connie. I think if you end up going to your doctor, it seems like you think you can have a conversation about toxins and he completely understand. And my guess is that your doctor isn't going to understand. And the first way you can really determine that he isn't getting what you're talking about is if you can convince him to examine you and determine lab-wise if you have toxins. If he says, well, let's order the word blood. If the word blood comes up, I think that you could probably just take that as a full indictment that he does not understand the kind of toxins we're talking about, because blood is not going to be the way to analyze this. You and I both agree on this one?
Yes, absolutely. And in reality, I don't know that there is any great test, because you can do a hair mineral analysis, which is a better test than a blood test. But the fact is that the heavy metals accumulate in the tissues. And so, like you said, if you do a blood test, they're not necessarily going to show up. And so oftentimes doctors will do a trial of, a heavy metal treatment to see how the person reacts, although I've even done those kind of challenges. It's called a DMS or DMPS.
A provocative. It's called a provocative, yeah.
Yeah, where they give you a certain amount of the heavy metal chelator, and then they can gauge your body's response to that. And in my case, it didn't show anything, but I knew I had high heavy metal levels, because when I started doing the protocol that my doctor had put me on, I just started to feel horrible, because that's what can happen sometimes when you detox your bodies. Initially, you feel worse as your body is getting rid.
Which is a good thing.
It ended up being a good thing, yeah. But I thought it was a process of, okay, 6 months and I'm done. And it ended up being years. And and I don't want to say that to discourage anyone. I just say it's something. We have so many toxins that accumulate in our tissues that you really want to do detoxification as well. But within a year, if you do consistent heavy metal chelation, you can remove a lot of the contaminants to the point where you feel a lot better. But again, like you said, Dr. Courtney, you want to work with a physician that specializes in heavy metal detoxification, and not just because your conventional medical doctor isn't going to know about this. And in fact, they might even tell you that there is no such thing. That because they're trained to believe that this is not a problem, that people don't have toxins, heavy metals in their bodies.
That hang up in the tissues. I mean, they check the blood, and that's why I say if the word blood comes up, just kindly remove yourself from the situation, and then don't try to embarrass the gentleman, because he really won't understand what you're talking about. And then seek out the help of an integrative doctor. I'd like to do this now, Connie. I'd like to take a short break. When we come back, I want you to take some time to let our listeners know how they can get a hold of some of this great work that you and Dr. Cowden put together, websites, phone numbers, and the like. And then we're going to switch gears and move from the body to the home and see what advice you may have for us there. What do you think?
Sounds great. Look forward to it.
All right, folks. We got Connie Strasheim with us. She is telling you and I how to deal with toxins in the body. We're going to switch now to the home and see where those little culprits are hanging out there and what to do about them. Get ready to write, too. Get a pencil and a paper. She'll be right back with enabling you to get her book and future books. Be right back with Connie Strasheim.
And then yeah, there's a contact form.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again to AIM Impact on Your Health here on a Wednesday morning version of the show. Fast paced as it is, folks, you're learning how to detoxify. Well, first we're talking about the body from someone who worked very closely with a gentleman understanding toxicity issues. Dr. Lee Cowden's been on our show a couple of times. But the two have teamed up to put out a series of books, the first of which, Create a Toxin-Free Body and Home. Our guest today is Ms. Connie Strasheim, who's been dazzling us with her acumen on the issue of toxicities with the body. We're going to say welcome her back. You with us still, Connie? You still there, dear?
I am here, Dr. Courtney.
Would you take a moment to let our listeners know how they can find out more about the work of you and Dr. Cowden, how to get to hold of these books, how to find out more about you, how to contact you if they have specific questions? Take it away, and ladies and gentlemen, you got your pencil and paper. Get ready to write. Here she comes. Go ahead.
Yes, so listeners can go to my website, which is ConnieStrasheim.com. So that's my name. Last name is spelled STRASHEIM. So that's ConnieStrasheim.com. And my email is Connie@ConnieStrasheim.com. And there's also a contact form on my website. And listeners can also go to me on Facebook. I have a professional page as well as a personal page on there. Can send me a message via Facebook. And Dr. Cowden's information, his work can be found on the Academy for Comprehensive Integrative Medicine website, which is acimconnect.com.
Perfect. All right, Connie, we're going to switch some gears and move away from talking about the body and how complex an issue that really is to something that people I don't think are paying enough attention to. And I want you to emphasize why they better pay attention to this, because you really can't do one without the other. I think you're going to tell us. But let you tell us about the home and the surrounding and immediate environment that we're in each and every day, and how harmful it very well could be, making us ill. Go right ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, Dr. Courtney, it's really important to get toxins out of your body and make sure you're eating clean, organic food, because you don't want to put new toxins into your body. But if you neglect your home and neglect to look at what in your home might be making you sick, then it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to do detox. And so, you know, you've got to eliminate the source of the toxicity. And in the home, there can be a number of different toxins. One of the ones that I'm most passionate about, because it's found in nearly every single home in the United States today, is electromagnetic pollution. And these are basically high and low frequency fields that come from things like Wi-Fi, our cordless phones, cell phones, that come from our appliances, poor wall wiring, and just a number of different sources. And we're all being bombarded by electromagnetic pollution today. And there have been some estimates that, you know, from the Swiss Paracelsus Clinic, for instance, in Switzerland, which is a renowned clinic, they have found that their clients or their patients are electrosensitive, meaning they get symptoms from electromagnetic fields. And electromagnetic toxicity has been linked to a variety of disorders. Most notably, it disrupts sleep. And that's what I've actually personally had a lot of encounter with this, because I've had to move 3 times because of electromagnetic pollution really disrupted my sleep. And so when you're not sleeping, your body can't heal, it can't regenerate. And so that's one of the toxins that we talk about in the book. And there are a number of different things, you know, what you can do to minimize the effect of electromagnetic pollution. And it's especially important because smart meters are another source that I didn't mention that are really affecting a lot of people. And Dr. Cowden, who is very healthy, you know, he's amazingly healthy, but they installed a smart meter on his home, and he developed atrial fibrillation, which is an irregular heartbeat, and he became exhausted and fatigued. And it wasn't until they got the smart meter removed from his home that he was able to function again. And so in the book, we talk about some things that you can do to mitigate the effects of electromagnetic pollution in your home environment. And then beyond that, we talk about things like mold, which is another toxin especially found in damp climates and which can contribute to a number of chronic diseases. I had a friend who had chronic Lyme who thought that her symptoms were caused by Lyme and they were really caused by mold, because symptoms of mold illness can mimic symptoms of Lyme disease and a number of other disorders. And so there are tests that you can do. In the book we talk about that. We talk about how you can determine whether you've got mold in your house, and they're do-it-yourself tests. You don't have to spend lots of money, and you can just order a test. It's called the ERMI test, and based on a sample of dust, you can determine whether you have one of 36 different types of mold in your environment, and then what you can do about that to get that remediated. So that's another one we talk about. We talk about toxins in furniture. Formaldehyde is commonly used in new carpets, in bedding, mattresses, wall paint. When you have new paint in your home and you have new carpet, it's a toxic disaster, because there are a lot of chemicals in paint, in carpet, in building materials that can off-gas and make some people sick. And so we talk about what you can do to mitigate the effects of those kind of toxins. And then finally, you have things like personal care products and household cleaning products, which are just loaded with chemicals and can also cause or contribute to chronic illness. And there are alternatives. There are natural cleaning products that you can purchase in health food stores, and they even sell some of these in your regular grocery store nowadays. And these things are very important for some people to switch to as well. And so by doing a number of things to get rid of the toxins in the home, then you can feel a lot better. And we talk about, for instance, different types of flooring that you can use instead of carpet. If you have a new carpet in your home, how you can replace that with different types of flooring. And everyone's going to say, well, I can't afford to get rid of my carpet, or I can't repaint my walls. That may be true, and so we talk about other things you can do in that case, and pet toxins. That's another thing Dr. Cowden is passionate about, and he talks about how when you keep a cat litter box in the same room where you sleep, the cat's fecal matter off gases different things that are basically harmful to your health. So there's a lot of different things in that section of the book.
Let me ask you this, because I was listening intently, and I'm always intrigued on how you women, because this is a woman quality, I think. You said you had to move 3 times because you couldn't sleep. How did you know that it was the home in which you were living in? What was it about that led you to move 3 times, and then when you hit the 4th time, you went, okay, now I finally found it? Would you talk to me a bit about that, because it intrigues the heck out of me?
Oh, yeah, it's a lot of trial and error. First of all, I was living in an apartment or condominium complexes where there are a lot of electromagnetic fields, and I purchased what's called a tri-field meter and a Gauss meter, which are 2 different instruments that you can use to measure the fields in your environment. And unless you're a professional, I have to say it's really, it's difficult to get accurate readings about the amount of pollution in the environment, but they will give you an idea. If they sell these devices on the internet. I think the website I purchased them from was emffree.com or lessemf.com, something like that. But that was where I started. And then what I did was I measured the fields at night and during the day, and I noticed that at night the fields would go up radically. And I thought, what's going on? Why are the fields going up at night? And so I measured. I discovered that there was an outdoor lamp, a huge lamp mounted on the outside of my condominium complex, right outside my bedroom, and the wiring went through the ceiling. And at night, when they turned on the lamp, the field shut up. And I would get buzzing in my body at night, and like I was plugged into a socket. And then every time I would leave my home and go out into the countryside or somewhere else, I would sleep better. And so that was one thing. And I tried mitigating it. I bought a Faraday cage, which is a silver-lined metallic canopy that blocks out high-frequency electromagnetic fields, like from microwave towers. But what those canopies, and those are very, very important, they're not sufficient. They don't block out what are called the lower frequency fields, which come from things like wall wiring, which come from appliances, and that's what I was really being affected by. And so, because you find people that are sensitive to the high frequency fields, and then some are sensitive to the lower frequency fields. And so it was these lower frequency fields that were affecting me. And then so after that, what I did, I began to turn off the circuit breakers at night. Of course, that didn't do anything for the lamp that was mounted outside my building, because that wasn't a part of my condo electrical system. But by turning off the circuit breakers at night, it lowered some of the fields. I also used what are called Graham-Stetzer filters, which they block the fields that come from wall wiring, and poor wall wiring. And a lot of buildings have that wall wiring, and you can purchase a device also which you plug into the wall, and it will measure the amount of fields that are coming off the wall from the wall wiring. So it's a little bit of a complex issue, because there are different types of fields, different ways to measure them, and then it takes some time to sort out, well, is this coming from a cell phone tower? Is it coming from a power line? They say, it's never good to live close to a power line. If you can avoid that. They've done studies, and they have found that rates of leukemia in children increase when they live close to a power line. So, and then there are things we mentioned in the book, like, okay, you can find out how close you are to cell phone towers and how many cell phone towers are within a 4-mile radius of where you live by going to this website called antennasearch.com. But it's a challenging issue because, like I mentioned, we're all awash in a sea of electromagnetic pollution, and so, but there are different things you can do to lower that. So,
well, I got to apologize because I asked the question from my perspective of really, I don't feel what you feel, okay? And when you answered the question about, it was interesting, how would you know that it was electrical fields? When you said it's your body, I think you used the word hummed or it like buzzed or what.
Yeah.
I think you and I are wired a little differently, and I never get that kind of input. You are so sensitive that on the one hand, how bad must that be for you? On the other hand, how great must that be? Because when you're in that clean zone, your body certainly knows it, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that's the thing. There are people, the stronger you are. There are people that don't notice the field, but there are increasingly more and more people that are noticing, when I talk on my cell phone, they'll say I get a headache or I get tired, or they notice they don't sleep well in certain environments. And sometimes the only way to sort out, whether you're fatigue or insomnia or other symptoms caused by electromagnetic fields, is to sleep for a while in an environment where the fields are lower. And, you really need a meter, an electromagnetic field meter to know whether the EMFs are an issue. But Dr. Kazan had suspected that with me also, because when I first met him, I was going through this, and he had his own ways of kind of measuring, and he said, I think that the electromagnetic field is the reason why you're not sleeping. And so I moved, and sure enough, there was a difference. And so it does take time to sort out, but I really, I just tell people, whether you feel the effects or not, it's really good to minimize your exposure to EMS, and especially things like cell phones, because I interviewed the cancer doctors every single month, and they continually tell me that children today are developing brain cancer, and that was something they never saw over 20 years ago when they first started practicing medicine. Those that have been in practice a long time, they'll say that they're seeing younger and younger people developing brain cancer, and it's from the cell phone use. And so I always tell people it's a bigger deal than it seems like. And I know, it's convenient to use your iPhone, and it's fun to get on Facebook and all this kind of stuff. But we really, it's really idea to minimize your exposure to those kind of things.
Well, we're coming up right almost to the end of the show. I would hate to be caught off guard and have to say goodbye to you abruptly. So why don't we, as we sort of hit that crescendo moment here, let you begin to tell us about what's up and coming. I mean, as if you had let any grass grow under your feet up till now, Connie. You're one busy lady, putting out these books, and you and the work of Dr. Cowden certainly are. We can benefit from that work. What's the next project for Connie Strasheim? As if you don't have enough to do already?
Yeah. Well, it's educating people and on basically the things that we share in these books. And honestly, the next book project, I'm not really sure, but I have an idea to write a book based on my healing journey about how to heal from depression and insomnia based on things that I've gone through. And because I think that's a complex disorder that's not only biochemical, but emotional and spiritual in nature. And so, I have an idea about that, but I'm not really that I'm pondering at the moment.
Also, well, we got bongos in the background. That means it is our time out here. I'm glad we took the right moment. Let's just sort of put a punctuation mark at the end of it and leave it as an exclamation point. Look, Connie, it was a joy and pleasure talking to you today.
Yeah.
Look forward to having an opportunity to bring you back. I mean, it's not like we don't have much more to talk about. It doesn't seem to be in your lexicon to have nothing to talk about. We'll set that up. I want to thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, let's say goodbye. And look forward to seeing you on Friday. Don't forget, we're going to have Patty Szymanski here with us as well as Angela Mitzos. Until then, this is Dr. Dennis Courtney with Ms. Connie Strasheim saying so long for AM Impact on Your Health.
Thank you.